What's going on, everyone? Trust the Buzz here. If you're new to the channel, I make daily Charlotte Hornets content, so if that interests you, make sure you go ahead and hit that subscribe button down below. If you cannot tell by the thumbnail title of this video, in today's video we're going to be talking about the takeaways from the Charlotte Hornets preseason. So one thing I will say, and we're going to go ahead and get into it, one thing I will say is that the team got better over the course of the preseason, which is something that you would like to see. Now, the reason that some people say, well, it is just preseason and the first few games, of course, it's first games back. The reason those games were so alarming is because a lot of the issues that the team had last year, they were the same issues that we were having coming into the season. Well, the preseason, that is. And granted, you could say, it's a lot of the same players. So, of course, you're going to have a lot of the same issues. However, you would hope the players would, be in the lab over the summer over the summer, early fall, and just work on those things and get ready for the new season. But a lot of things we saw were still a blatant issue. Now, some of it's roster issue, and we're not here to talk about that just because of the fact that there's nothing we can do about roster. I mean, it's really up to one person and one person only. Well, two people, I guess. Michael Jordan and Mitch Kupchak. So I'm not going to really talk about the glaring holes roster-wise, but I will just talk about just as far as tactics. So it started off, one thing we saw, and we still kind of saw, was that LaMelo Ball, when he is not on the floor, the offense was atrocious. It just was. James Bouknight wasn't hitting, Terry Rozier was taking bad shots, and that was just kind of the offense. It helped this game specifically with LaMelo out due to an ankle injury. It helped specifically that Dennis Smith Jr. was in the game. I think he was able to control the ball a little bit. James Bouknight looked a lot more comfortable. That helped too, because at the beginning he really wasn't comfortable at all, and you could tell it really wasn't his play per se. It wasn't like his skill set or anything like that. I not for one second didn't think he had the skills. It was more so he just did not look comfortable on the court, and I think his confidence was shot. So it was just rough for him, but it got better over the course of the preseason. But back to Dennis Smith Jr., I think that he is a good gateway between having James Bouknight run the point guard and Terry Rozier run the point guard. I think Dennis Smith Jr. just allows for that change to not be as drastic. I'm not saying that he's like LaMelo talented or anything like that. I'm just saying that instead of going straight from LaMelo to a guy, really two guys with James Bouknight and Terry Rozier who can play point guard but are more fit at the shooting guard position, instead of going straight to those guys, you have Dennis Smith Jr. who I can have on the court. So if the play gets bad, give it to him. And also he'd find a way to get a bucket. I think he ran the offense well. I think that's going to be very beneficial for this team. Now, we're always going to just talk about the just attempt to winning a game. I personally think the team should tank. There's no reason to try. But I mean, then what would I be talking about for 82 games, So I'm going to talk the most I can about just attempting to win the game. And if you want to win a game, I think having Dennis Smith Jr. as your backup, it's not enough to be like, oh, we're going to make the playoffs or even a play-in. However, it's manageable enough so I can watch the games. You know what I mean? It's not going to be a pretty season, but it's manageable enough to watch the games. Another ball handler was available. Two ball handlers were available in Cody Martin and Gordon Hayward. Cody Martin was doing his thing defensively. It's crazy to me that people believe that he didn't deserve his contract, but he deserves it. Some people say it's an overpay, but you got to think about it like this. As of right now, he is the only guy we've seen year in and year out. Well, I say year in and year out, but at least for the last 2 years, and then even starting this preseason, that can effectively guard the perimeter. He's the only guy we have right now. So it's similar to like a long time ago. I don't know if y'all remember when Mike Conley got paid, and everybody's like, oh, that's an overpay. I think he was the highest paid person in the league. It was like, oh, that's an overpay. That's an overpay. And the way you got to think about it is, how valuable is Mike Conley to that team? Not how valuable he is to the NBA, but how valuable was he to the Memphis Grizzlies? That is what I'm seeing. That's what Cody Martin's deal was. I think he deserved it. He is literally our best perimeter defender. PJ is probably our second, maybe. I'm thinking off the top of my head. And so you have to pay accordingly. It's not about how the Miami Heat would value him or how the Lakers would value him or the Knicks. It's about how valuable is he to the Charlotte Hornets, and he's pretty valuable considering he's a really only ball stopper right now. So, and he was showing that. He was showing that. So it was good to see that in his limited minutes. Because granted, I don't want to get more injured, but it was just good to see that he obviously still bringing that tenacity on defense. And then Gordon Hayward. I've always said this. I know on this channel, like, I get onto Gordon Hayward, but that's literally because his availability. However, on the court, when Gordon Hayward was able to play, I'm always satisfied with what I see from him on the court. I think Gordon Hayward is a very good player. It's unfortunate that he has the injuries that he does, and also it's unfortunate that he's kind of put in this situation. And the reason, the way I mean by that is that he's getting paid a lot of money to be a star player, and he's not a star player. However, he is very valuable to this team, but Indiana offered more, so I get it. Indiana was in contention to like get Gordon Hayward and pay him that kind of money, so I get it. However, it's just tough, and it's not his fault. Even injuries are not his fault, but it's not his fault how the roster has turned out. But it's just tough that Gordon Hayward's in this position because, like I said, he's a very talented player, but it's almost like no matter how well he plays on the court at this point, it can't save what's happened in the last 2 years with injuries, and then really not even just injuries, but he's literally not available when the team needed him most 2 years in a row. And I think, to me, that's the most frustrating part. But on the court, he looked really good, and I think that's going to be really good for this team. I think that's going to be really good for his trade value as well. Terry Rozier was a guy that he looked good. He looked really good. I think really he was just missing shots, and that as time comes, he's going to hit more of those shots. He had open shots, he was just missing them. So I think he looked better offensively, even though the numbers may not show it. But he did look a lot better offensively. He just was missing, and with reps and game time, those shots are going to fall. Nick Richards was really good. Nick Richards was good on both ends of the court. That's what I want to see from Nick Richards, night in and night out. Joel Embiid is going to do what Joel Embiid does. It's just that simple. I'm not expecting Nick Richards to be the Joel Embiid stopper. I'm not expecting him to be the Bam Adebayo stopper. I'm not expecting him to be the Nikola Jokic stopper. However, all I'm asking is that you get in their way. So in the past, Nick Richards would get bullied by Joel Embiid, Jokic, any competent center. He would just get bullied and just simply overmatched. Nick Richards didn't get overmatched in this, in my opinion. Joel Embiid is just extremely talented. Nikola Jokic is just extremely talented. Those guys are going to get their shots. So when they didn't let Joel penetrate, but he was just able to hit like a little close shot, fine, you let him do that, because the percentage of him missing that is a lot higher than the percentage of him missing a shot under the basket. So I'm not mad at him for that, and I think he just showed just some good defense, and I think he was just able to stick with Joel Embiid. Like I said, it is Joel Embiid at the end of the day, but he just didn't allow for anything easy to happen, and that's all I can ask for at this point. And for the whole team, they look better, and that's all I can ask for at this point. That's really just what I want to see, is the young guys do their thing. Do the young guys show improvement? That's what this season is about, and I don't care what anybody says. That is the most important thing this season, is that the young guys show improvement along with LaMelo Ball. But we know what LaMelo Ball brings. We really just want to see what other guys do, because no matter what direction this team goes, whether they tank or whether they try to go and make the playoffs, you need those young guys to be your bench pieces. Maybe some of them you won't start to be starters, but you need them to at least be a quality bench so you can have some depth. And so if they don't develop, then even if you're one of the Hornets fans that, I don't want them to tank, I just want them to go and compete for the playoff, it's not going to happen if those young guys develop, because the Hornets are not a team that's going to just get a bunch of savvy veterans on the bench and then be like, all right, let's go. They're going to have to build their bench. As of right now, they're going to have to build their bench through their young guys, and like I said, the young guys are doing their thing. J.T. Thor looked really good. I don't feel like I talk about it enough, and I mentioned on Twitter, follow me on Twitter. I talk everything Charlotte Hornets, basketball, football, all that stuff, draft. I'm a really big college basketball draft person, so follow me on Twitter. I'll put a link down in the description below. But I said on Twitter that I really don't give J.T. Thor the flowers he deserves, and I really, really like J.T. Thor's game. I feel like once he finally puts it together, he is going to be dangerous. He's a guy that can switch almost on any position. He's super athletic. He does have a shot. It's just not falling. I don't think like something's wrong with his shot or anything like that. I think he just needs to really see it go in more times than not. And I really think that's going to give him the confidence and just really, because I don't even think anything's wrong with his mechanics. I mean, it just doesn't go in. So I feel like as though he just needs to settle down and really just work on that shot. If he really puts the work in, JT Thor is really going to be a menace. And I'm not saying like superstar type, but he might be a superstar for the Hornets. Like, he might be that guy that like everybody else don't know about. But JT Thor, Hornets fans like, no, that guy, when he's in the game, he makes a difference. I really think he can be that. And Mark Williams looked good in his limited minutes. He's a good rim defender, I think. It's just he struggles to finish underneath the basket. And I don't know why. You know, I really want to go back and look at what happened at Duke and see the positions that Duke put him in for him to be able to finish. Granted, the competition's different, but I just want to see some things that Coach K was doing to allow Mark Williams to be so efficient at the rim like he was. And that's one thing you got to do with young players, especially young players who are like kind of maybe the stars of their team. While Mark Williams wasn't a star of his team, those guys you want them to learn your offense. You want them to learn your system. However, I think to get them off to the right start, you want to put them in the positions they were in college that made you draft them in the first place. And you can also say that about James Bouknight. I feel as though Steve Clifford is allowing that to happen, and that's why I feel like we've seen the progression from James Bouknight in these 4 or 5 games. But Steve Clifford is putting James Bouknight in those positions where James Bouknight ran point guard. Granted, it wasn't a traditional point guard style, but he kind of ran point guard at UConn. And obviously he was really good. And they had another guy who like really ran point guard. So I feel as though with the Dennis Smith Jr. being in the lineup, Terry Rozier really embracing that point guard role, I think that's why we were able to see James Bouknight kind of run that pseudo point guard position and flourish. So same for Mark Williams. I want to see him in better positions, similar to the positions he was in college, and maybe that will help him just kind of jumpstart and then go from there. Kai Jones is in an interesting position. He's shown growth for sure, basketball IQ wise. He doesn't just go up and everything. However, there are things that needs to work on, and I feel like we all know what those are. Really, it's still basketball IQ, even though it's growing. So one thing I will say is from last year's summer league to this year's summer league, some plays he made, I was like, I don't see it. Granted, I feel like they gave Kai more of a green light this summer league, so maybe that's also why he was making those plays. But from summer league to now, I've seen some basketball IQ growth from Kai Jones, and I'm happy with it. I just wish it's just in a tough position because where he was drafted, and then they still kind of want to put him at the 4. It's just weird. It's a weird thing, but. One thing I really like towards the end of the game, and I wish they just would have rolled it out, and I get why, but I wish they would have just rolled this lineup out. They had a lineup of Dennis Smith Jr., James Bouknight, Bryce McGowan, JT Thor, and Mark Williams. I think that is a lineup we should see more often because I think those are the guys that are going to go over into the next transition for the Charlotte Hornets. So whether that transition is, like I said, tanking or not, that 5, maybe, I guess you could take out Dennis Smith Jr., but that 4 or 5, I think no matter what direction the Hornets go, those are the guys you want to keep and want to develop. Those are the guys who, some of them can be starters, some of them not, but those are the guys who are going to hold your team together. Because I think some teams you're only good as your bench at times, depending on who you have on your team. And right now, the way the Hornets are, made, or, the roster is currently constructed, their starters are not like some, it's not like Giannis, Drew Holiday, and Chris Middleton. You know what I mean? That's not the starting lineup for the Charlotte Hornets. So for a team like the Hornets, these guys, if they develop and become just really good role players, you're happy with that because that's a solid foundation to have when you have LaMelo, and then you're going to need another star player and then like a glue guy in the starting lineup. But those guys can be either or depending on how they develop. And I think I want to see that lineup so much more this season just because of the fact that all those guys are extremely talented. And I feel as though they have the most to prove and they have the highest upside on the team off the top of my head. So I would just like to see more of those from those guys. Anyway, that does it for this video. I've really kind of been slacking off on the content, but only because I didn't want to get burnt out before the season. Because once the season starts, we are rolling, doing like 2-3 videos a day, maybe. And then obviously there'll be, if I'm loading that much content, there'll be some videos where it just be a picture and then me like voice over in it, just because of the fact that with that much content, it takes a lot to set up all these lights and stuff. And I'm lazy. And then I also got other stuff to do. But anyway, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Let me know what you think about the Hornets preseason down below. It started off really rough, but I appreciate how it started off considering how it finished, despite not winning the game against the Sixers. I really like what I saw the entire game. There was effort on both sides of the court, and that's one of my biggest things. So just let me know what you think down in the comment section below, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.